Welcome to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. Oh my god, I found something on the hard drive that I haven't even seen the footage of myself. I took a film, I filed it, I stored it. I forgot about it, but I'm putting it together for you guys. There's about 150 clips I took in a 36-hour period. I was going crazy filming. Anyway, it's in 3 parts. It's a 3-parter, so day 1, day 2, day 3, it's going to be in there. Check it out. The first one's going to deal with some tips for beginners. If you're advanced, advanced people, super experienced people, move along. If you're a beginner, a novice, a learner, anybody who wants to get a few tips, there might be 1 or 2 tips in here for you that just helps you maybe understand the method of fishing. I'm hoping it'll catch you a few extra fish. If not, at least it's going to give you something to watch through the awful times we have as I make this film. Awful weather, I can't go fishing, we've got the old COVID going. Well, let's hope that's cleared up. Hopefully we get some more films up for you as well to keep you occupied. Guys, part 1 is on the way. Well, welcome to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. I'm down here at the Todber Manor Fisheries Complex. And going to be a tough one for sound, I feel. There's a helicopter shoal going over my top of my bivvy. I'm on a bigger fish lake. I don't think I'm in the greatest spot. Should be down there in the wind, but it's rammed. As happens at Todber, it's very busy because the fish are good. And there's a guy in a tractor over the back there, so I can't use a big camera. I get about a minute before he turns around, and then you just get this background noise all the time. And yes, here he comes again. Very windy. Here's a swim I'm in, guys. This is where I'm fishing. I'm not sure somebody else is going to turn up and start fishing there. And I want to talk to you a little bit about accuracy casting. Not that I'm any expert, but I see him using a lot carp fishing. So let me run through it. It just might be a tip. This is for beginners. There might be a tip there that you guys could actually pick off the extra fish by being super accurate and work out how they measure in their distances with their bait and their bait rig is set. Okay, the first thing that seems to be fairly standard when you go into a water, and I've not fished this lake before myself, is you want to find out what the bottom is. Now I think it's fairly uniform here. I've talked to some guys around the corner there. It's fairly uniform, but all you want to do is get your carp rod and get your lead, especially so on waters that are very, very weedy. You want to be able to test and feel what that bottom's like. Now they tell me it's best to do this with braid, but what I'm going to do is just cast out, let that sink. It gives you a bit of a countdown, and you can gently look, just bump it back. You can feel, are you over mud? I mean, this is all silt probably in here, probably all clear. I'm gradually bringing this back. I feel nothing. The only thing I feel is that guy churning up and down with that tractor non-stop. There's me saying Todber's beautiful and quiet, one of the most tranquil places, and I've had a shoal of helicopters over the top of me. Okay, so where I'm casting, I've already chucked some bait out there. Where I'm casting is, I'm just searching around there, let it hit the bottom, and there's feeling for clear patches, feeling where there's some weed, trying to find what we call a sweet spot, somewhere nice. I just hope the gentleman over there is not going to be casting where I've baited. Generally happens with me. And what I've done here is mark myself where I'm standing here. You don't want to move from where you cast. So what we're going to do is be casting over there. Okay, and then I'm going to put here, you have a little clip to clip your line in, the tag end of the line when you don't use it. So what you're basically going to be doing, you're going to be casting out when you find your sweet spot, your perfect distance. Could be close in like this. Close the bail on, just still checking for weed. It'll be dragging sensation. I don't want to put all my bait in the wrong place. Don't have to bring it all the way in, obviously, you know, bump it all the way in, because if it's in the margins you will start getting weed and stuff. So I'm just going to go slightly left, and I want to get the right spot. So I was fishing off that island somewhere like that. A little bit of weed, something on the bottom there I didn't like. Close to those that island or close to the point, close to some rushes at distance, you want to make sure that you don't cast into that area. So you just keep casting closer and closer. For instance, I'm going to try and go close to that point of that island because I haven't got a bait out of there yet, so I'm not going to spook anything. Close to the point of the island. Now, 2 ways they say do it. I just cast freewheeling it straight out by experience. But to gain accuracy, what they do like to do, they say point the butt. When you bring the butt, look, I've got to swing it back. I've got my finger, I've opened my bail arm for beginners. There you go, you've got your distance to your lead, which is about, let's say, 1/3 of the way up from the reel. Open the bail arm, you've got it across your fingers. You can point the rod at that point there, gently swing it behind you, and then they say, point the butt where you want to cast, and then just follow through in one smooth movement is what you want to do. Is so I'll get the butt pretty well where I want, and then I'm going to cast out. Right, now that one fell short. Okay, so I want to go a little bit farther next time on that line. Let's wheel it in again. I'm doing all this while there's hopefully no fish out there. Same thing, let it go back. That's about perfect, that's about where I want it. You might not see it with this camera. Let's say that was the distance I want. Here, you put your line into that clip, just like this. We use a thumbnail. Can you see that? Then you close the bail arm. You can wind in. That's pre-clipped here. Now obviously if I cast again, it's only going to come up against that clip. I'll show you what I mean. I cannot possibly overcast it. I'll do this before that tractor comes back again. It swing back, put the butt to where you want to cast. Watch the rod. There. It actually pulled on the rod. Okay, so that's the distance I want. Now I want to retain that distance. Obviously if I have it like this and I hook a fish, it's just going to snap, isn't it? Or something bizarre is going to happen, I'm going to pull the hook out. So that will have to come off at some stage. But I want to know the distance from here, this clip, up the rod to over there, where it landed. So what you do is this rod is 12 feet long. So I'm going to suggest, as one of the guys in the tackle shop says, you can do this with the length of your rod, and then you know you've got a 12-foot span between these two pegs, rod rests. You can buy kits apparently. If you go to Tobber tackle shop, they do actually do a measuring kit, they call it. Oh, if I can get this in. I had a drought this summer, so it's ground still like concrete. It won't be tomorrow morning. I'll give it tipping down with rain. I've got a bit of a shocker of a forecast, but what do you do? Just got to give it a try. So there you go. Then some of you might work this out. You lay your bait here, your lead there, and then you measure, stand back from it here like a triangle, how many spans you got around there. So it's 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, can't be much farther, 6, 7, that's about 7 1/4, okay? That's 7 1/4. So then you take the wrap off, you know it's 7 1/4, you got your measurement. So at this stage, the microphone lead fell off. Happy days. Well, basically you can see what I'm doing. I then, having put the line in the line clip at 7 1/4, so I know exactly the length it's going to be, I undo the loops around those poles. I can then go out and set my rig up, send it out there, you know, with the bait as per normal. It ensures that I won't overcast. Of course you can deviate to the right or the left, that's down to you, but you shouldn't be able to overcast if you cast hard enough. Okay, so what I'm going to be using here is the boilie, which we've mentioned in one of our more recent carp films. This one is peaches and cream, and it's in 18mm size. It's quite a big size. There's bigger carp in here, less of them. Obviously you have to remember that the density of carp can only be a certain level in the water. You either have a lot of small ones or you have a few big ones. The larger the fish, generally the smaller the density of stocking. This has still got the same poundage of fish. You could have 10 2-pounders or 1 20-pounder. That fish is still representing the same density, 20 pounds of fish. Then I'll put my bait stop on, which in my case I put my bait stuff on there. Always find those a fiddle. Like that, you see the bait stop, guys? 18mm boilie pieces of cream, hook, haven't got a clue. The link, is there a knot in there or is that rough? The sleeve that slots into the lead, and that pops free like this. Just a very slight grip on that swivel. And when the fish comes along, picks this up, he can move off, feels the tug of the lead, it makes him spook, and hopefully you get a hook up. So now I go back to where I was before. If you remember, here's my 2 markers, and I'm going to mark out my lead there. I'm going to go round just over 7 1/4 turns. 1, there we go, and 6, hopefully you're getting this, who knows, 7, that's where I was before, wasn't it? 7, close the bail arm, stand exactly where you were before, rotate the spool and put it in that clip. A bit fiddly, it's easy to do when you're not filming. There, it's in the clip, it can't go anywhere. Close my bail arm, then I'm going to wind all that back on the line, because I've now got the right distance that I've marked before where I actually want my hook bait to be. Now I can throw this out as a single bait, or I can put a bag on it. Now when you cast this out, okay, let's put this down for a second. Generally when you cast out like this, you cast out and just tend to hold the rod because to let it follow through, as it were. You don't want it to follow through. So the best thing to do is cast out and just gently hold the rod back at this angle, put it that way, the line's going this way, you cast that way, rather than keep your rod down like you would normally cast, you get a follow through. If you keep it just slightly tilted back, when it comes up against the tug of that clip on the spool, it just pulls it forward and you can sort of slow it so that you don't follow through too much. Now I'm going to put a bag on this one and get it out there. So I'm going to be casting over there towards the point of that island, and I'll show you what I mean. As I cast, you'll see it sort of hold up. So point that way as I bring it back, allow for it to stop swinging. Just point your butt where you want it to go, and it should hold your rod up high. Boom, it follows through like that, and it just takes a bit of impact off it, and I'm exactly where I want it to be. Hopefully that's a bit of a tip for you for measuring out predetermined areas for accuracy casting. And I think maybe I will put a bag on this one, but of course always remember, now you've got that out there at just over 7, release that clip, and then you can go back, put it in your rod rest just like this. Make sure you got the bait runner on there, and make sure you got your clip, your bobbin indicator. Make sure you got the alarm on, Graeme. Now you can pull the lead straight like this, move the lead, and that straightens out. If you imagine the lead comes down and the boilie goes on top of it, this way it goes down, and if you pull like that, it will pull it straight, and at least it will be, imagine the lead is here and the hook is there. I like to keep my bobbin just back at a slight angle so that you can get drop backs like that. Obviously if it pulls up and hooks itself, brilliant. Always check that you're on here, that you're on that bait runner, and that your drag is set to fight the fish, and you can adjust up and down using this, just up and down here, and get the bobbin where you want it. I do like to fish them quite short, I have to say. Now you can use one of these PVA mesh bags to get a bit of extra bait out there as well. Keep everything dry with these, keep it nice and tight like that. Should have a knot in the bottom. I like to use, let's say, a lot smaller ones, same flavour. Sometimes you can contrast them. Just get those down in the bottom like this. I tend to do it on my knees better, just so it doesn't fall out everywhere on the ground. Main thing is keeping it dry. Slide the knot back towards the towards a group of hook bait, snip off, always try and recall the advice given before is to tie that knot in the end, ready for the next time, and it won't all fall on the floor. Thread the sleeve back onto the tube. Do make sure you do not get any moisture on it whatsoever. That's why it's sealed up nice like that. So I've got my little bag there, a small boilies, and I've got a bigger 18mm one there. So they get the flavour of these, and hopefully they see this larger one. That's the theory with it. I tend to want to go just under the knot. Look, I'm no expert, just the way I do it. I feel tonight there's a blank coming. I feel like I might have to move lakes. In fact, if I had a choice, I would have moved lakes. It is so busy here, it's unbelievable. That's because they get some big fish in here. The chance of a 20-pounder is still there. So, here we go, let's get it out there. And then I'm going to get some loose feed out as well, and I'll show you how to do that with one of those bait delivery devices. Let's get this one clipped up. Now just by the spool here. Yeah, I've got, you guys must get it out there. You must either get good vibes or bad vibes, and I haven't got any good vibes where I am at all. I see no movement, nothing. I'm in the windless area, if you can imagine that. And this one, because they got some catfish in here, I've got a big halibut pellet. Let me show you. We call them donkey chokers. Great big ones like this. In fact, I'll give them a few out there. I can throw these in by hand. You can see these giant ones. I'm just working on the premise that there could be a catfish coming along these margins of these rushes, because that's the next angler. Then there's a bay, there's the next angler, then there's a bay here. So I'm straight out over there and to the left. Okay, you want to deliver some bait to your swim. You can use one of these devices. We're not paid for it, so I'm not mentioning the name. Just ask for them in a tackle shop. It's like a bomb, isn't it? It goes zooming through the air. Got a little red button there. It hits the top of the lake bed, and it all pops open like that. You can close it with a clip, like this. I say, cast through, delivers your bait. But of course, you want this at the same distance that you've got your hook bait. Now you can do this first, you can bait up first, then put your hook bait out, or you can put your hook bait out, then this, it makes no difference. You can top it up through the day, through the night, but you want that same distance. So this one, when you do clip up, there's a little clip, just there, the line clip. When you do clip up, you can at least leave it clipped up, because you're not going to be fishing with it. I'll show you what we do. Put it down exactly the same, just right on that. You then want 7.25 turns. Now they tell me you can use braid for this. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. It's just a bait delivery system. Now this is more for long range fishing. 3, 4, 5, 6, missed it. 7, there. Close it to the distance I want. Put it in the clip there. See it just in the clip? Hopefully you guys are seeing this. In the clip, close the bail arm, and then wind that slack back around from your markers. I'm going to fill up with some bait. Let's see what we got to give these puppies their tea. God, 2:30 already. That's where you get messing about. Slightly larger pellets, and these are 4mm square-inch pellets. Now, whatever you're casting, you want to keep the same amount in each, really. That way you've got the same weight to cast. But if you're a little bit lighter with it, you're going to have to cast a bit harder, and you won't be casting past it. Just shake those like that with it closed, and I'll show you what we do. Again, you still have to be accurate with your line. Don't forget, this is a different rod. It's a spod rod, it's heavier, stiffer. It casts out, goes through the air, comes up against my stop there, and that should have opened and delivered the bait right over the top of my hook bait. I know it has because I can tell by the way it's coming back in. So that is another way you can get accurate baiting up. I'm going to give them 2 or 3 or 4 of these and save most of it until maybe dusk. It's much, or you can put samples of your hook bait in here, boilies, you can put feed like this in there. I just tend to just shake it all down like that. If you deviate once or twice, it doesn't really matter. I think the carp will move around and find it. So cast out, you watch the top of the rod, bang, and that's because you feel it takes that tension because it's clipped up, and that's what you should do when you're casting your hook bait. So it should now be baiting up in exactly the right spot. I'm a great believer that they actually come snuffling around looking for stuff to eat. And listen, there's no point putting loads out. If the fish aren't feeding, they aren't feeding. It'll just be wasted. If there's a lot of small fish out there, they're going to be getting through it. So here's my ground bait mix I've got. It's bran, Bailey's #1 horse feed. Fairly dry at the bottom. Look, if I dig down, it's very dry. I don't really want to over damp it. Now if you put this in, you just want to put it in loose. Don't compact it, because it will stick and it will clog up the front there. So just make sure that you keep that clear away from the trigger release. There we go. Now, as well as delivering your bait, don't forget, if you get bait and bits of stuff in here, man, that was a beep. That was a beep. That's on the one I've just cast out, guys, with the bag of loose boilies. That's interesting. Now that could, because I've got line tight there, I've also baited up on the inside. So my line on the right hand rod could pick up what they call a liner, a fish moving up and down the inside line here, bumping into that. I wonder if I should put on, now when it's like this I just rest it for a second, because I'm just about to cast this out again, put another delivery of bait out there. I think I might just hang on a second. I don't want to crash this on top of a carp's head and he's looking at this bait. I'm going to throw a few more donkey chokers out in the margins here, guys. See how big they are, these things. But I have caught catfish on them. Sometimes they string them up like this in 3s, but I don't have any bait drills or anything like that. Just a hunch, and there might be one around the edge of that working up and down those rush beds. Try and get them in the same sort of size ball. This, don't forget, is about the same size ball as the one I cast out with all the loosed off offerings in there as well. I'm going to get a few out there. I'll put 3 or 4 out the front here in this swim here, because I haven't had a beep on that one. I have 1 beep on that, 1 beep on this. I don't think there are a lot. There's some fry here, some tiny little 1-inch fry. That's about all I've seen. I don't think there's those, I'm going to call them awful F1s, but if you're after bigger carp, the last thing you want to do is have a carp about 2 pounds taking the waking you up at 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 pound carp on a carp rod of 2.5 pound test curve is not the world's greatest fight. Always make sure you don't over wet that ground bait. I mean, I'm obviously going to get through all of this. Hopefully by tomorrow it's all got to go. And sort of fluff it up. Even if it goes partially dry, it will soak up. What I find is that Bailey's feed gives it the binding agent. Just makes it stick. The bran pads it out and flakes up well. And you don't see many carp people ground baiting, do you? Not other than matchmen, they ground bait, they know the secrets of ground baiting. What it is, the carp anglers, I think, will ground bait like this, like matchman style, brings around the small fish. But I think, yeah, it does bring around the small fish. But the small fish aren't going to nibble your boilie away anyway. And that activity of them feeding might actually induce a carp to take the bait, to move in and see what all that activity is. I've got a loose feed catapult and a ground bait catapult. The loose feed catapult is squeezy like this. The ground bait catapult is not. It has what's called, look, a rigid cup, and the ball, a ground bait, will rest in there perfectly to allow me to catapult right out. I'm going to do this just to show you, because I know I'm pretty well fishing out that way. I've got two sort of swims baited here. Now, close in here, I think I could stand here, and I've got one just mid-channel there. I can throw out there, look. And I don't really want them in a tight area that I would be if I say tench fishing or match fishing or anything like that. I want them fairly spread out so the carp can basically move around there, just coming across the odd ball of ground bait like this, nibbling away, and then maybe finding my my hook bait. I'm spreading it all around here, you see, different, because I've no idea where the carp hotspot is. So for loose feed, in the margins down here where I've got my catfish bait, I can use this long elastic matchman's catapult like this. Sprays a load out and it goes a long way. It does go a long way, this. This is just a hunch I've got that there might be. Give these a few out there. Got the wind behind me, so it will all be sent out and be grist, what we call grist to the mill. Right, I've put my pellets in these sealed containers, which I find are very good. They've got a rubber seal around them. I find those pretty good. I try and keep everything else dry. That's a good old loaf of bread just in case. And I've got some of these, one of these Pacific tuna 15mm shelf lives. Which one of the beep? One of the right out of the beep. I'm going to be trying these out there as well. So I'm using the same match catapult just to, I've got to watch the wind behind me. I don't go too far. Like that one. That was on the ducks. You can't say I don't feed these carp, can you, eh? Whether it's going to make any difference, I don't know. These are handy because obviously they're all symmetrically the same size and circular, so if you just do two at a go, you'll find you can, well, you should be able to get used to accuracy. If they go short, don't worry about it, you know. Main thing is you don't want birds eating them. Now my ultimate tip, guys, here comes the rain by the looks of it. Always get, this is bread that Mike said was out of date. It's patently obviously it's out of date by 3 or 4 minutes. Nothing wrong with it at all. Breaks them up whenever I go carp fishing. Look, if the birds eat it, whatever, it doesn't matter. But something might come up. There's many a carp I've caught around the edge of rushes. There's a moorhen coming out there. It's not a bad thing because I'll get some good pictures of them later. Especially late in the evening, if it's drifting and slick like this, there's every chance you might spot the only carp you're ever going to catch. Could be on the surface. They might be on the bottom and not feeding. They could be hanging mid-water, also not feeding. But something could see small fish, look, this big, knocking those bits of bread. And I'm a great believer that carp can see that activity as well, move up and see what's going on. Oh, I think I need to tidy up. I think I need a maid here. I need room service. I've got my Raptor oil here. I should be dipping that trout pellet in this. That's my premium quality vomit value. Well, it's getting near. What are we? 3:15. It's dark about 7:30. So I'm figuring to use some of my Raptor oil here. So I bought my big halibut pellet in here, and I'm going to dip it in my Raptor oil there. Just shake the surplus off, and hopefully when I put it in the water, you'll see, just low in here for now, just there. I take the camera off, and hopefully you can see all those colours in the water where the oil's coming off of the halibut pellet bait. Just popping and making circular, it's all biodegradable stuff, it's all natural fish oil that I boil up myself. There's a beautiful bit of oil coming off there. Amazing colours. And that could just swing the odds in my favour for catfish, I feel. Look at it coming off there. Right, let's get that back out in the margins. If I was just catfishing on my own, it wouldn't bother me, to be honest. I smear it on the lead as well. I shall certainly be using it when it's dark. I'm not going to bother with anything round this, just a straight pellet. It's just a hunch that there might be a cat coming up on the inside of those rushes. Now with some rod rests, I'm going to move that forward so I'll show you here. These are all Mike's gear. That's fine there. Well, these rod rests, if you're here at night and you've got this bait runner attachment, look, the line pulls off, but if you want to fish it fairly tight, these little rubber rod rests here can actually pop, watch, and lock in there, so that if a fish does take and he's pulling really fast, you've got quite a bit of drag set on the back here, it doesn't pull off. The only thing I found is I have leapt out of bed sometimes, struck, and the whole rod rest has come out of the water, so they need to be tight but not too tight. This one is just split, so it doesn't matter. Well, in fact, it doesn't split, it can lodge in that secondary one there. It's just a different type. I thought it had split, but it hasn't, so that one's probably better. But to be honest, I don't really use it, but it can be used. Click, like that. Look, that one can either rest like that, or if you're going to bed and you just got 3 or 4 seconds getting it to it because you're tired, why not lock it in? But when you strike, just remember that it is locked in. Make sure your rod rest is well pushed in here. Always check that bait runner. There's jets, planes, tractors. Oh, that one wasn't set just where I checked. I think this stuff should be quoted on the stock exchange. It's valuable. Well, it's very, very quiet. 4 hours I've seen 1, 2, I think there's 4 carp I've seen caught. I can see most of the lake, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 14 anglers. Some have got 3 rods, some have got 2 rods. 14 times 2 is, right, 28. So we're looking at about 30 to 35 rods, 35 rods. Say 32, it's more than that, but say 32. 4 8s, so in the last 5 hours, you'd need 8 rods out to catch 1 fish. And so I'm working it out anyway. If it wasn't quite so late in the day, I would move to one of the other lakes because I am definitely, I think, in a dead corner here. Anyway, what I wanted to show you is this. Look, this is what's happening in our summer. Look at this. How far does this go down? When it gets wet, it closes up, one hopes, but how far can I get my hand down there? Way down. And it goes all the way over there. And it just, you can see round here as well. Shows you I'm bored, guys, doesn't it? But look all the way along there. It's a rat hole as well. And you can see it's actually, the shrinkage has come away from the wood. There. Are we going to get that rain to replace the underground aquifers? Those are, if you like, the underground reservoirs which feed all our rivers. because I haven't even river fished. This is September, I haven't even river fished yet because it's just been so low. Some people have been struggling, some people will always catch, some people do really well, but they find the fish bottled up in a river. But you know, it's not looking good, is it? All this weather change business. It's tough out there, guys. It is tough. Not just tough fishing for me, tough on the rivers as well. So I'm hoping if we get some rain, which I think is coming tonight, that it'll fill up the rivers, at least top the rivers up, but it might not soak down deep enough to get to those underground aquifers to fill them up. And that's what replenishes our rivers over time, over a long time. We need the rain in the winter. We haven't been getting it. No good having a heavy downpour, that wouldn't really do it. All that does is surface water, and a lot of that down here. If you had a huge thunderstorm, it's just going to run in the cracks and they just run straight off here because it's going to be hard. It needs like quiet, soft rain just to soak everywhere, make it damp, and then of course it can soak in. All I'm getting are grebes in my swim after the little fish I've attracted, which I don't mind because those little fish that's been attracted over here in both baited swims, there's small fish being attracted. There could be a carp attracted. Guy over there's had one carp, and I've seen some coots there diving, and they could stir it up on the bottom as well. Quiet, quiet, quiet for me though down this end. It's like what I call a dead zone. You know, all you guys know there's somewhere there's always a dead zone in a lake, and I figure every other swim's gone. I reckon I'm in the dead zone. Tonight we'll find out.